want to talk a little bit today about the Corporate Transparency Act. A lot of people don't realize this. I think it has to do a lot with, anything we're going to make money in, we need to know about this. If you formed an LLC, you formed any type of a partnership or any type of an entity that is registered like with the IRS, you have a taxpayer identification number, a TIN, then you need to file before the end of this year. By January 1st of 2025, you're going to need to declare some personal data. Now, it's not before we could hide behind that, or in other words, we could not hide, I should say. We could protect our personal information behind those and protect assets behind those. That's the way the law is set up. However, in 2021, there was an approval made that I want you to know, though, that former President Donald Trump had actually vetoed this bill, okay? It was this current administration that put this bill back in place to show more of the invasiveness of this current administration. Let me read to you a little bit about this bill. The Corporate Transparency Act, this is from the Newsweek. You can go on if you want to see Newsweek. I'm not a big fan of Newsweek, but I know a lot about this act, and I want to just this is true, what I'm going to read here to you. It's actually there's a bill being proposed by a senator from Alabama, and he's explaining why they need to propose this bill. Now, this is true, I'm going to read to you. So I want you to take this with not a grain of salt, but with all seriousness, because this is serious. They're going to come after all small business owners. They're trying to kill the economy to introduce the central bank digital currency. So on the FedNow platform now, you can look up, do your homework now, write in what's FedNow program. Now, everything's going to be for our benefit, by the way, so don't be deceived by that. If you know it's for your health, it's for your benefit, then you should throw up a big yellow, if not red flag. Listen to this. The Corporate Transparency Act, the CTA it's called, is a classic example of intrusive big government overreach. It places new compliance burden on mainstream Americans with an LLC or any type of entity that is. And failure to comply comes with criminal penalties and could lead you behind bars. Could put you in jail. This is very true. The CTA, the Corporate Transparency Act, requires individuals with substantial control, not money, not income, but any type of control over a company or an equity position of 25% or greater to disclose personal data with the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN. A government bureau most Americans don't even realize even exists. Now, do you even know that FinCEN even exists to come and monitor us small business owners out there? You don't. You say, how's this anything to do with our spirituality? Because bishops, stake presidents, anybody out there who's actually an entrepreneur, who's actually really becoming self-reliant, is going to run into this obstacle. And if you don't file, and if you file anything new as of 2024, you have like 90 days to declare all this information. Otherwise, you can get 2 years in jail and a $10,000 fine for every act they feel you violated. Now, I understand things. That when somebody in the law comes after you, they don't come after you and say, well, you violated this. They go after you, the whole bunch of them, so they can get at least one or two of them and get that conviction, right? So keep that in mind. So 2 years for so you can just have two people, husband and wife, have your LLC, and you don't report this stuff because you don't realize you have to report it. A lot of accountants aren't saying anything about it. My accountant did. I knew about it ahead of time. It was a shock to me, but I actually have not filed anything yet. I'm waiting to the end of the year because special interest groups took it to court and they won. It was deemed unconstitutional. But it's funny because the judge just said, well, it's unconstitutional. And so they went back to the government and said, it's unconstitutional. And it's okay, you guys are exempt from it then. But everybody else, all the little people out there, the plebs like us, we're going to go after it because we have not come together yet to make an official stand. And this is something that we need to do. We need to start coming together to make a stand. Now, on our benefit, there are other organizations out there filing lawsuits against this, right? And I won't go into the name of who those are, but they're some of the ones that you would think would be out there fighting for us. The Better Business Bureau, one of those. The CTA requires individuals to file this substantial information. The CTA will impact small business across the nation, in addition to millions of citizens who use LLCs to invest in real estate or protect their assets. Now, I'm not just talking about LLCs. This goes blanket, corporates, everything. So if you have a C-corp or whatever you have, an s-corp, partnership, my understanding is all this needs to be filed, declared. A lot of it in LLCs, because in LLCs, a lot of those you could remain anonymous in, right? That was for protection purposes until until we had a president in 2008 get elected that started wiping that out and making that look like it was something bad to do, when actually it's been our right to maintain our privacy. And we need to remember that. So remember this, that anything that has to do with freedom is going to be a good thing. Anything that's going to take away our freedoms is not going to be a good thing, contrary to what anybody says. And I'm talking about responsible freedom, not talking about irresponsible freedom, right? Like Chaz, for example. The CTA will impact small businesses. Over 32 million businesses entities are estimated to be affected by the law. 32 million. Americans with CTA filing obligations must report their name, date of birth, address, and scan of their government-issued photo ID to the Treasury Department by January 1st of 2025. Anytime this information changes, updated information must be submitted to FinCEN's database within 30 days. So when you go on and file this, keep in mind something. When you go in and you're going to file this information with them, not only are you giving them information, they are actually then taking your IP address. So they're going to know exactly where you're entering this into and from, I should say, right? Failure to comply with FinCEN could lead to criminal penalty of up to 2 years of jail time and civil fines of up to $10,000 per violation. And that's what I was saying earlier. Who does the federal government need this information in the first place, or why do they need it? The goal of the CTA was to crack down on shell companies used to commit crimes. The reality is lawbreakers are not going to file with FinCEN. Of course not. Instead, they'll continue to do what they're doing. Instead, the law will place a massive administrative burden on millions of hardworking Americans and business owners and land them in jail. I'm adding my own words into it. The legislation was championed by Oregon Senator Ron Wyden, keep that in mind for those of you in Oregon, and Representative Carol Maloney, and former Representative Carol Maloney of New York, of course, coming from blue states, and slipped into the fiscal year 2021. Okay, the National Defense Authorization Act, that's where it was slipped into. After then vetoed by then President Trump, and then a subsequent congressional override vote, the bill became law on January 1st, 2021 and went into effect this year. So Trump vetoed it. But even though Trump vetoed it, Congress still put it back in. Look, what's that do with our spirituality? A lot. Because if we're not complying, we're going to start seeing good people, including bishops, stake presidents, and even general authorities, get thrown in jail. And don't think that that won't become news. They are not paying their taxes. They're not obeying the law of the land. What is the law of the land you're going to obey? Just how far do you go with these arbitrary laws that just keep popping up every day? This is like living in Banana Republic. I lived in for 20 years. It's just not the law of the land. I argue that the law of the land is U.S. Constitution, and that's what I'm going to obey. Because if you don't have that mooring, any law that pops up from any one of these wannabe tyrannical dictators is going to be law of the land, of that land. And they're not even making laws the way laws are supposed to be made. So you're going to have to make that decision going forward where you stand. As for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord in his agency and freedom. And we're going to defend that. And that means whatever to whatever degree we need to defend that. And we hope that that's going to be only with having to just verbally speak. This is something that we need to take a stand against. And this is something I just want to share with people out there, that if you didn't know this, you don't even get involved, but you better turn everything over to the government now. Because if you don't, you can find yourself in jail. And then your family's going to be in a hard pickle. Well, courageous conviction. If you like this kind of information, I know this is fringe. You say, well, how does this do with our spirituality? Let me tell you, it's hard to be very spiritual when you're sitting 2 years in jail and your family's got to pay $20,000, $30,000 in fines. How are they going to provide? Yeah, that can affect your spirituality, very much so. This is why Section 88, 77 through 81 is what this channel is all about. Learn what's out there. Learn the current affairs, the past, governments, other governments, wars, nations of wars, what causes these things. That is in our doctrine in order for us to be able to go forth and magnify our callings. Courageous Conviction Media, we'll see you in our next video.